So here we go. So this discussion is really about what we're calling flower hubs in Canada. And I was thinking today how this is kind of a bit of a misnomer, because the thing about flower hubs is sometimes it's just 3 or 4 farmers selling together, and it's more like a co-selling arrangement than a hub arrangement. So hubs might be bigger, co-selling might be smaller, but it's the idea that farmers get together, they co-list in an online store their availability for designers, and designers see that store, they can buy in one order from all the different growers, so growers can kind of specialize a bit in what they have, and they check out in that store, and then the growers get pick lists and pack lists of what they have to bring. They bring it to a common place, a drop spot, where it's re-aggregated into buckets for every designer, and designers come and pick it up. There's all kinds of variations on that theme, but that's kind of the basic way we started this. And the hubs we're talking about today all sell on the Open Food Network platform. And because of that, we have nicknamed it the Open Flower Network platform, but that's not really its name. So I'm just going to share my screen here. And just to say that this project to start these hubs and support them a little bit, and I don't think we've given much support, is a project funded by the Sustainable Agricultural Partnership in Canada, and we hope that we can be fortunate enough to get more assistance from that partnership, but so far we don't know that. So there were in 2024 7 active hubs. 5 were in Ontario, the local flower collective in the GTA, which Jamie's going to talk about today, Ottawa Flower Collective, and we have a couple of people from the Ottawa Flower Collective to share experiences about that and answer your questions as well. Millgrove Flower Collective, which is outside of the GTA in the Hamilton kind of area. Grey Bruce Flower Growers up on the Grey Bruce Peninsula in Ontario. Muskoka Flower Collective, even further north of them in Ontario. And we have 2 hubs in Alberta, Cooperative Flower Network in and around Edmonton, and Calgary Flower Growers. Now for 2025, I know there's at least going to be one more. There's a group starting in Niagara. And there's another collective in the KW Guelph area that has little murmurs that it might start as well. So you could be on this list next year, just think of that. What you notice right away about those communities is they really vary, and that matters a lot in terms of the prices and how well the hubs do. Hubs that are farther away from major flower distribution spots generally have prices a little bit higher because it takes more for the conventional chain flowers to get there, and therefore our prices generally rise a little bit above what we would consider, I'm going to use the word conventional or global chain flowers. Hubs that are outside of the GTA but close enough to drive there in a couple hours see lower prices generally, and that's because we're competing very much with all that flower candy store supply in the GTA, because designers, unless they're really, really committed to local, probably are going to want to see prices the same or on par as what they get in the GTA. So where you are really matters. But what I think most of us agree about is there are so many advantages to local flowers that the prices should be a little bit higher than conventional wholesale. So today we're not going to talk about prices because you've probably already seen that video and the price list, and I would encourage you to look at that if you haven't yet, but we're not focusing exclusively on prices today. The other thing that really varies across these collective is just the nature of the business model for these marketplaces. In some cases, well, in one case specifically, in Edmonton, they are structured as a producer co-op, a legally structured co-op where all the farmers own the assets of the cooperative. And so that's a different kind of model. It's a model that kind of encourages all farmers rise together and stand on each other's shoulders and share in all the benefits. The downside, of course, is it takes a little bit more work to set up. Other hubs run as a sole proprietorship, whether that is a project run by a farm as a kind of service the farm is offering to other farmers and to designers, or whether it operates as a service offered by a designer or a design studio to other designers. And we have hubs doing both things. Or the third model is neither of the above. An informal group of producers who don't have any formal ownership of the capital to make the hub. They may not even have a bank account as a group. They may not even have any kind of a studio that they own or share together. They are a group of producers who sell together in an online shop and arrange for one distribution or pickup spot. So I like to call this the KISS group, keep it simple, sweetie, because it's a very simple model compared to the others. So we have all these kinds of models. And at the same time, within those different hub models, we have different farmers with different business models. And if you could contrast them, and this isn't to say there are just two types, of course there are many, many types, but if you put these on a continuum, if you will, on one side we have what I call the side hustle farm, and in the gap analysis survey we did, it was really clear that there are a lot of farms that meet this kind of description, an acre or less in cut flowers, running mostly on self-labor, selling in multiple channels, usually a mix of designers, wholesale, retail, sometimes weddings too, and they often sell by the bunch, like in other words, not by multiple buckets at a time. And if you compare that with what we nicknamed the livelihood farm, so a farm with over 2 acres in flowers probably has more than 5 employees, probably has been focusing on wholesale channels for a while now, and really counts on moving volume. So the reason I put these models up here is you can imagine how when a hub's suppliers, farmers, get together to talk about price, these farms bring really different perspectives to that discussion. This farmer really the side hustle farmer really wants to increase the price per bunch. They sell by the bunch and they don't have a lot of bunches. They have 10 bunches of cosmos at a time, for example. But the livelihood farm, they're going to be selling in volume. They have to move buckets of cosmos, and they have to move 5 buckets this week because that's how much product they have. So for the livelihood farm, they're not so much in favor of dropping the price per stem. They're in favor of finding higher volume buying buyers so that they can sell more volume. But the side hustle farm probably doesn't matter to them if there's a lot more buyers, because they sell out most likely what they have, because they're selling by the bunch and they're selling smaller volumes. So these two things make for some very healthy discussions when hubs get together. What is a farm to do? Well, there are different strategies. The best thing is to find a marketplace that works for your business model, or start a new marketplace if you want to only work with other very like-minded growers and designers. A marketplace is not very difficult to start. The other thing we see happening is if you can't get the price you need in a marketplace, and we all need a certain price, well then you don't sell that product there. If the price for status in summer drops to fall, there's lots of other products to grow besides status. So pick your product. And I think over time we are seeing a lot of farmers really focus on their product mix when they're selling in these marketplaces in relation to what all the other farmers they're co-selling with are selling. And that's what I mean by kind of specialization over time. And they're all focusing on things that don't ship, things that aren't really available at other wholesalers, or in colors or varieties that aren't available for other wholesalers, for example. The other strategy is farmers need to know their floor price. In other words, you need to know when you're losing money. And you can't wait till after the season's done to see that you lost $10,000. You need to know every week how much you have to sell and what your floor price on that bucket or that stem can be, or you don't sell that product. So I think this is a place where we're seeing a lot of farmers trying to knuckle down a little bit more to try to get really a lot more focused on exactly what their floor price is and to set it. And then the last thing is just really a summary is knowing when you compete and when you can't. There are lots of flowers where wholesalers have a real edge. For me to try to sell ranunculus anytime after, the middle or end of June is just silly because it's too hot here. And there are wholesalers who will sell that ranunculus from farms that cool the soil so that they keep it cold and they can make outstanding ranunculus. It's just not going to be a season-long product that I sell if I sell it at all. On the other hand, there are some things where I know I can really compete. Some of the frilly, newer Japanese varieties of Lysianthus, for example, which don't tend to be available at a wholesaler. And if they are, they're selling them as kind of pathetic single flowered stems in very conventional colors. And I can do a lot better than that because I'm a small ship and I can shift really quickly. So as soon as the new Roseanne terracotta was out last year, I had it. And a lot of the other wholesalers wouldn't have that yet. So focusing on things that we can do and competing where we can is an important thing. A few stats about how the hubs fared last year. And what I'm showing you are comparison between the largest hub, which is the local flower collective in the GTA, and Jamie will speak to this, compared to hubs that where 2024 was year one, so year one hubs average, and hubs where they're in their second year or better, because of course we get better as we get older, and so do hubs. So the largest hub, if we look at the number of growers, you can see 24 growers is a lot of growers. A hub generally starts with about 5 and then grows pretty quickly to 15. That's tripling the number of growers in a year that we saw happening last year. That says there's growers who want to sell in these hubs. And if we look at buyers, we see a similar thing. Hubs starting, somewhere around 20 buyers, quickly going up to 50, and then we see in the GTA, far more than that. And partly that's demographics of the city, but this leap from year one to year two is happening even in very small towns and small cities. So the largest hub, that might be numbers just for the GTA, although it looks like Edmonton is hedging up on that, like for last year, and might in fact do those same kind of targets this year. So, but big cities, of course, are going to have more designers and so forth, so they're going to always do better. What is important is to look at the ratio of the buyers to the sellers, though. And so generally hubs are starting off with about 4 buyers for every seller. So that's, imagine, if you're a farmer, you have 4 buyers who buy from you every week. And generally that ratio drops a little bit, and we have fewer buyers per seller. This is a bit of a conundrum because really you want to keep the buyers per seller ratio high. The issue is that we need the diversity of the growers because they're mostly small growers who don't grow everything. And we need that diversity because this is primarily selling to event designers, and what do they love? Diverse product. So we have this problem of, even if we thought we could decrease this ratio or increase this ratio, we still would need diversity. So it's a bit of a conundrum how to manage that. Whoops. If we look at orders, one of the things that was exciting to see is there's a huge leap between year 1 and year 2 in orders. That means that people like what they see, right? And they came back in the year 2 and they bought more in year 2. It's a very exciting trend to see the number of orders go up. And the average order size is a healthy average order size if you compare to like food hubs, where the average order size is around $30. So selling flowers, easier to do in a wholesale hub than selling food products in a hub. And then if we look at the sales, and here we're looking at 2 different metrics, the hub sales and the per grower revenue. Now, this per grower revenue is an average, and there is a huge range around this average. Some growers might have earned $25,000 or $30,000, even though the average is 5 or whatever. So it's a huge range about this, because growers are all different sizes, as I said. So, but what we're seeing is again, a huge leap in hub sales from year one hubs to year two hubs, very healthy growth, and a huge leap in per grower revenue from a year one hub to a year two hub. So those are all really healthy metrics. Now you're sitting there and you're thinking, what? Only $5,000? Yes, on average, only $5,000. So there's no masquerading here about it. I mean, would we all want it different? Yes, we would all want it different. But yes, you go into these hubs with your eyes open. If you think you're getting rich, this is not where. And then growth, this is perhaps the healthiest metric. 32% over 2023 across all these hubs. So that is really exciting. You know, people say our peak in cut flowers was during COVID and then everything fell. That is not true in here. I mean, people are still buying local cut flowers like they were during COVID. In fact, they're increasing it. And I think it's a credit not just to the quality, but that there's a lot of buzz, right? People are hearing about it more and they're getting used to buying cut flowers, and buying in an online hub makes it really easy. And I think that's why that's happening. I'm going to stop there and ask Jamie if she wants to share. And whoops. Sorry, I messed something up here, didn't I?
Share. Hold on.
Yeah, I know. Did you share?
Hold on. I'm doing it right now, I think. Can everyone see that?
No, you're still seeing mine, aren't you? For some reason, I'm not getting.
Yeah. It says I'm screen sharing. Can everyone else see that?
Yeah, I can see Cut Flower Collectives on the screen.
Oh, okay. Perfect.
No, but I think you're seeing my presentation still. Hang on. I don't know why I'm having trouble.
Seeing something that says Cut Flower Collectives with Open Food Network. Local Flower Collective.
Yes, perfect. Okay. Oh God, now I can't see my presentation. Hold on a second. Oh my God. Okay, 1 second. I don't want to. I swear to God, no matter how many times I do this, it's like I'm a baby.
I think there's little gremlins that go in and change things. Because it's like, I've had so many times when the test was perfect. And then,
okay. Okay, I have to do it again. I don't know what happened.
That's okay.
Share. Okay. Okay, can everyone see this now? Mm-hmm. Theresa, can you see this?
I can see it, yes.
Okay, perfect. Sorry, I had to minimize everybody so I could read what my presentation is. So my name is Jamie, for those of you who don't know. I'm a floral designer located in Toronto, and I'm one of the co-founders of the Local Flower Collective. So this presentation will just kind of go through when we started, why and how we started, and how the collective is run. So this is just the intro. Welcome. Oh my God, I can't. There we go. Okay. So the collective was established in 2018, and for the purpose of just supporting local flower farmers and bringing more diverse and more locally grown product into the market in Toronto. And it was originally discussed amongst a few farmers and a few florists about how we needed a hub that was a little bit more centralized so people could buy and sell easier. There were a lot of local farms in Toronto who were every week sending out their own availability sheets and then delivering directly to each florist. So there was just a lot of time lost for farmers doing that whole delivery route once or twice a week. And a lot of florists who maybe couldn't meet minimums that other growers had, which is totally understandable. So we got together with a few florists and farmers and we're just like, can we get this done? Can we get this running? And everyone was just really excited to do it. And so that's how it started. It started off in a shared studio between myself and Carrie, who was another co-founder. And it's still working that way. We're in the 7th year, and it still runs out of my studio, which is in the picture here. It's a shared studio. It's 1,100 square feet, 1,200 square feet. So it's not huge. And our cooler is 10 by 10, I think, which is, again, not big enough. So we have 2 days of drop off and pickup. So we have enough space in our cooler for everything. So Tuesdays and Wednesdays are drop off days. It is a membership based collective, so that everybody who is a member pays a fee in order to cover the overhead costs of everything. Sorry. So a collective is a group of individuals who work together towards a common goal or purpose. And ours is like what we stated before. It's just to help local farmers sell more of their product and to help florists have easier access to just the beautiful product that they grow. And everybody, to a certain extent, we try to keep everyone involved with the collective as much as possible, decision making, how we're run. Anytime we make some large decisions on changes on how the collective works, we get feedback from both of our growers and our buyers, just to make sure it tries to work as best for everyone involved. Our members, as Theresa said, we have about 100 members, with the split being 70-30. And as Theresa was talking about, that ratio is really, really hard to get perfect because depending on what type of buyer you are, your small scale, your large scale, your retail, your event, how much you're buying and the quantity that you're buying in changes. And we have farmers of all different sizes, some small scale and some very large scale. So the math on that to figure out the perfect ratio and getting it every year is kind of impossible. I haven't figured it out. But I think the 3-to-1 is the closest possible ratio, just to try to make sure there's enough product for everyone and that the growers sell enough of their product and are not, and the market isn't oversaturated with the same product. These are just some pictures of pickup day and drop off day. And so what we do essentially is we're open May through October, with a few weeks in November for winter greens or like dried product. The growers upload a weekly availability onto our OFN shop, and the buyers log in to buy for pickup the following week. And the shop is open from Thursday night till Sunday night for pickup the following week at our studio. And as I mentioned before, the drop-off days are Tuesdays and Wednesdays, and this is just to ensure that we have enough time to process everything and that there's enough room in the studio and in our fridge. And also some of the growers' delivery schedules work around that. Some of the growers drop off to flower markets in the city on certain days, and some of them drop off to OFG on certain days. So we just have those 2 days to work with everyone's schedule as much as possible. So the flowers are picked up by the buyers on Wednesdays between 10 and 2-ish. And then the rest of the week is kind of a little bit admin heavy on adjusting orders if we need to do credits, or if we need to adjust people's invoices because something wasn't shipped or there were changes made on the last day or something like that. And so it's a little bit admin heavy on the end of the week, and the beginning of the week is just a lot of sorting all the beautiful flowers. And I forgot what I was going to say. There's something else. I forgot. It might come back to me later. And then in the off season, what we do typically is our membership renewals and accepting new members is done sort of December, January, which kind of bleeds into February and March, just for people who want to join. We get to work a lot on the back end stuff, as Theresa knows. A lot of what we do in the winter months is how to finesse and readjust things that we needed to fix in the prior season. More beautiful pictures. This was hilarious. The one on the left was Christine trying to fill her tiny car with all the dried flowers. So what we do for our members and what we offer is membership promotion. So we have newsletters and we have season guides, holiday guides, sorry, that go out for things like Mother's Day and Christmas or the holidays, anything like that. So we ask our members to let us know what they're doing, and we put it into a document and it gets sent out to our newsletters. We offer studio and equipment rental or like decor rental for our members as well. Last year, we started offering a la carte flowers for weddings and events. So that just means we would handle the in-house design and purchase all the flowers from the growers. We are going to start educational resources, like something we've started talking about this year with the pricing, the wholesale pricing. We also offer a consignment / market shop, I guess, in the studio pickup days. So on Wednesdays when the buyers pick up, the growers, if they have leftovers or if they want to showcase something, they bring it to the studio. It's priced. So the buyers, when they come to pick up their order, they see something else and they are like, this is perfect. This is just what I needed. And we also offer silk ribbon to our members for their weddings. And as well, we use them in our own weddings. So reasons why the collective is a little bit more distinctive than other traditional wholesale shops is we're a little niche, we're small scale, non-traditional business model, and we've kind of worked around a way or figured out a way where we can support those small scale farmers who are a little bit too small to sell at a place like OFG, for instance, and maybe who want to sell more than what they do at their local farmers markets. We offer rentals, unique florals, wedding and events, and we help with education as much as possible. And we're trying to do that a little bit more each year. So the highs and lows of the collective, highs obviously are just watching the flowers come in every week, watching everyone's faces when they pick up their flowers or see something that's so unusual that they haven't seen before. Also love the other growers dropping off and seeing what other farmers are growing, and just, I think that's really cool. The buyers typically are asking, we have a shared sort of Slack workplace on Slack, and so buyers asking for weird things and growers saying, I have this, and it's just a little bit of a really cool community where people are looking for interesting stuff, and the growers are there for it. A high for me is having first access to see the flowers because it is my studio, so it's very exciting and fun for me. And another high is just seeing, like Theresa has put together all these documents for us, and there's a lot of information there that I had no idea about how the collective has grown and how we're, I think it was 43% or something in Ontario hubs for sellers, which is really cool to hear. Every year it's kind of just like we keep moving along and forget to take a look at milestones of what we're doing, and just really awesome. We're low waste as we possibly can be. And some lows or some challenges is fight for studio and fridge space. So because it works out of my studio, sometimes it can be a little hectic if I have a wedding or event that falls on a Thursday or a Friday. So it's a jammed fridge and a little bit chaotic with people coming and going all the time. The heavy admin load. Every year we try to figure out how to use technology to help streamline what we're doing, so we can focus on just growing the collective and making it work better for everyone. Low again is trying to juggle both my businesses when they're both intense at the same time. It's a little bit crazy sometimes. So another or lower challenge is still trying to get sort of a delivery system in place, not only for our members when they buy the flowers and want them delivered to their studios, but also sort of like a route where our farms that are close to each other can share a delivery route so they don't have to leave the farm all the time and do that quick turnaround. Some of our members in the Grey Bruce Flower Hub have figured out a little system for that, which is great. I think they're the first ones to kind of have this continuous delivery route that picks up and drops off, so they can essentially stay at their farm and they don't have to do that 2 hour or an hour and a half in and back trek to the studio. Some lows too are not selling all the flowers in the shop, which is like, that would be a perfect world, but that doesn't happen. Cash flows for the first few years, it was manageable. And as it got bigger, the more members we had, people not paying their invoices on time was just a challenge for me in order to pay the growers on time. So we've implemented a new system this year to help that cash flow be constant, because I think sometimes people don't realize the $100 or $200 order, they're like, it's fine. But when 10 people do it, it really adds up. So keeping track of payments coming in and coming out to make sure that the growers get paid on time is really important and a lot of work. So this year we're implementing a little change to help that, to alleviate that pressure a little bit. Another low is we do have sometimes every year a handful of new buyers, mostly 10 to 15-ish, who just join but don't buy anything. And every week we try to reach out to them and we're like, why didn't you buy anything? Sometimes they respond to us, sometimes they don't. So a little bit, we try to have people join the community who just want to participate, and sometimes they aren't. So it skews the data a little bit, and it's taking up space from somebody who would participate a little bit more. Just more pictures of the studio. The one on the right is kind of aftermath of a collective day. Very slippery, wet floors. Lots of buckets get spilled. So things that we've learned through growing over these past 6 or 7 years is staffing. For the first few years, it was just myself and someone else kind of alternating Tuesdays and Wednesdays. So it was never consistent staff, which meant people forgot how to do certain things, or they were off for a month. And then every time they came in, it was like relearning. So for the past 2 years now, moving on to our third year, we will have the same 2 staff in the studio for drop-off and pickup days, which is amazing because they just know how to do everything. They remember the systems, the sequences, they remember the growers and the buyers, and there's a little bit more of a relationship there. And they also will help figure out a way to streamline things and say, hey, we should do this. This will make things so much easier. And I'm just like, amazing. Let's do it. And about 3 years ago or 2 years ago, we just realized that a bookkeeper was an absolute must to keep track of everything, payments coming and going, make sure people were paying their bills on time. And that was just, I forget what Theresa just showed about the number of orders per week or per month. And I used to keep track of all those payments coming and going, and it was not good. I don't recommend it. So when you're thinking of starting any kind of hub in any kind of way, just know that you're going to need a good bookkeeper, a good money person, because that's going to be a huge thing. And as I mentioned before, cash flow, the larger we grew, the more of an issue it became. So this year we're implementing a system to try to alleviate that pressure. So overhead costs in the off season, there still are overhead costs in the off season. The more we are online and rely on things like customer relationship management software, we have to pay for those even when we're not in operation. We have to pay for our website even when it's not in operation, all those things. And we work a lot in the off season developing new systems and streamlining everything so that when we start in May, we're pretty much off and running because, as I mentioned, I am a florist, so my season also starts. So trying to keep the heavy workload in the off season, try to get that done, and then so when we start in the spring, it's a little bit smooth sailing. Growing pains, the grower to buyer ratio, as I mentioned, as Theresa was talking about, bookkeeping, very important, and educating in new buyers and growers on how the collective operates becomes a little bit more challenging every year, but we've started to introduce we do season guides and as intro Zooms with them at the beginning of every season to try to alleviate that beginning of the season mayhem. More beautiful flowers. So challenges, it's something Theresa and I work on every year to try to figure out how to deal with it. Pre-orders are a huge part of our sales. I think it's 30% of our sales, or Theresa will know, are pre-orders. And right now it's not done on OFN because it's a little bit complicated. So we do it on a Google spreadsheets, which works, but it's still a little bit clunky because it is such a large amount of sales. We are definitely going to keep it, but we just strive every year to try to figure out how to make it work better. Items not being sold, again, this is a little bit of the grower to buyer ratio, and then just seeing things left in the shop is a little bit obviously hard for the growers and hard for me too, because I'm just like, why are people not buying this stuff? So Google spreadsheets we rely on them so much, but sometimes there's a little bit of trickiness with using them because there's so many people editing the same thing. So thank God for Google spreadsheets, but also they can cause some issues sometimes. We are asking members to start pitching in with a little bit more of not the day-to-day, but just asking them for sharing their knowledge either on Instagram or through a newsletter, just to also create a little bit more of a sense of community. We want to try to promote that as much as possible. Determining fair membership fees, that took, and it still takes a little bit of time, but I think last year we figured it out. Mostly for the growers, it was a bit of an issue because depending on sizing, the size of your farm, it was a challenge figuring out what was fair across the board to all farms that had different sizes. We used to do a bucket count system, which was hard to track and also not fair depending on volumes that different farms were selling in. Communication between farmers and florists is really important to us. So we use Slack a lot. We didn't want to have a system where I would be a sales rep or we would have someone here sort of on the computer all the time. That's not why the collective was set up. So we have a Slack messaging system where everybody can talk directly to each other. And also the Google spreadsheets are how we communicate, how the growers communicate to us to adjust invoices. Say a buyer ordered 10 Cosmos and only 8 were delivered for whatever reason, we have to fix that on the buyer's invoice, and the grower will flag it on the Google spreadsheet, and so we know how to adjust it. Payments, as I mentioned before, it was a huge challenge, and hopefully we're going to figure it out this year. Education, we want to start to help educating people and ourselves who are members of the collective. So we're trying to find ways to do that, to promote that every year. Oversaturation of the market and floral trends. So a lot of the time, it's on our application to farmers who want to join the collective, and we ask them what they grow. And we want to make sure as much as possible that there is not a crazy amount of overlap in things like predominantly annuals. Because I just know that they won't all sell. And if you have so many farms growing the same thing, you'll have a lot of leftovers. So we do ask what people grow, and we let them know we're looking for more weird and unusual products with a focus on perennials. Like if you're growing roses, if you're growing peonies, if you're growing any kind of perennial, like Theresa's was one of our best farms for that purpose. Perennials, bleeding hearts, stuff like that, which we know is hard because it takes 3 to 4 years for them to be able to be harvested. So it's a huge commitment on the part of the grower, but we also want to ensure that if you do join the collective, that the more range of a diverse products, the more you'll probably sell through us. Like these beautiful things. So crazy. So member management was also a little bit of a challenge, but I think we've learned every year to adapt. So we all have our own businesses, so we know what that's like because we all have our own families and responsibilities that are outside of the business. So knowing how to work with people who have different ways of operating is really important. Like some of our farmers in the beginning, especially, were not very tech savvy. So having to help them, and Theresa does this with OFN, onboard them onto OFN, and even things not knowing how to use a Google spreadsheet, which is totally understandable, but it's how we operate. So we are starting to, I think last year we started to do like Zoom walkthroughs with everyone who's new pre-season, and we even do refreshers for returning members of this is how we operate, this is how you need to use these documents, just to make everything as smooth as possible. So, there's always a few buyers who are slightly dyslexic and will pay the wrong invoice or pay the wrong amount. And again, that's another need for a bookkeeper because those amounts add up after a while. So being prepared for the issues, we are doing the Zooms with the new members so they know how we work, because we do operate differently from a lot of other wholesale hubs. So we're doing the OFN training. Theresa does the OFN training. Thank you. We do the season guides, which is like a 10-page or so PDF that we send out to the growers and the buyers with links to everything they need. And reminders of our hours and everything like that. And we have set admin operating hours. So that's just because, as I mentioned before, everybody who works at the collective is either a farmer or a florist. And so we have to have our time set where we're working on our own events. So we let our members know as much as possible. Our office hours are these. So if you send an email and you don't get a response, this is why, and we'll definitely get to you when we're back in the office. This was our 5-year anniversary for the collective, which was last year. No, the year before last, which was just so much fun. Here's the thing. Our impact on the market. So the collective contributes 43% of all online wholesale flower hubs in Canada. This was from Theresa, which was so cool. I had no idea. And we have more access to local and usual flowers, sense of community. We're able to support smaller businesses. This is both for growers and for florists who are just part-time. They only do seasonal work. Maybe they just do subscriptions every once in a while. And we're just happy to have them buy from us. Seeing our popularity and has brought more local field-grown flowers to the forefront and made them more readily available. More knowledge sharing, sustainable floral practice, and our annual sales, including weddings and events, are around $300,000, which is amazing from when we started. And it's just so cool for me to see. So why this specific business model and what's next? So why this model was just because it was the quickest option. When we were first looking into the collective, we wanted it to be a not-for-profit. We just wanted to make sure that everybody who worked was paid fairly and paid a decent wage for their work. But starting a not-for-profit was very expensive and a lot of work. And we knew we needed a specific bookkeeper who kept track of everything. And at this point in time, we didn't have any money essentially. So the easiest and most cost effective thing was a sole proprietorship, or in this case, it was a co-founder split between Jess and I. So it was a partnership, and all we needed was a business number and an HST number, and then we were off, and a bank account, and that was it. And it was specifically that too as well, because we just didn't know if it was going to work. So we're like, well, let's start with this, and if it works, we'll kind of grow. Um, and then we also asked a few growers who, if they wanted to do something like a co-op, and I know there was a few people who were already part of OFG, and the workload on that was quite high, and they said, we don't want to do more work, we'll just want to sell more. So that's kind of how it has evolved. I'm not stuck with how it is. If people want to come together and decide, let's make it a collective, let's make it a co-op rather, in a proper sense of the word, I am all for that. Yeah, happy to do it. This is just kind of like, we've kind of been chugging along with it like this, and so that's how it's remained. And I'm currently looking into the possibility of having the collective be part of my corporation that I have for my wedding and design business, because just for tax purposes, because it's a little bit crazy how much I am taxed on the collective. It's like all the profits that's made, I have to pay in taxes for sole proprietorship in the next year. It's a little bit crazy to me. So I'm looking into options for that as well. What's next for the collective? To continue growing, obviously. We just want to keep making our systems more efficient, more streamlined as much as possible, continue our education, grow the community, and I would love to help other people get collective starting anywhere they are. So I want to work on that. I want to work on that this year, and even talking to other florist friends who I have who are in London and in LA and in like here in Hawaii. They're like, this sounds great. Why don't we have something like this here? And I just want to help people do that. And constant evolution, where we work every season to figure out what didn't work, what we need help on. And that's what we do in the off season. We work on streamlining, using technology to our advantage to help us streamline all of the processes. So in the works is developing a guide for starting a collective, organizing farm tours. Every year we want to do this so badly, to get our members, our buyers, and our farmers together at our local farms. But as you know, it's just, it's a hectic time of year. So this year, for sure, we want to get at least one farm tour, 2 farm tours, open to the public as well, but definitely to our members who want to come and just see the farms and meet the farmers. And something that I've always wanted to do and tried very hard in 2020 and COVID to do was to collaborate with floral schools. It's very, I don't understand why, but I've reached out to 2 or 3 flower schools in Toronto, and I just asked them, do you want local flowers? Like, do you want to be a buyer of the collective and you can have access to all these beautiful local flowers? And do you want to do like training or teaching sessions on how to work with local flowers as opposed to working with imports, which, as anybody who works with local flowers know, they're different. And everyone has said no. So I'm still working on that, because I think it's really important to educate florists who are coming up how to work with local flowers. And we thankfully have a few members of the collective who also have flower schools, and they do teach foam-free techniques and how to work with local flowers. So that's great. I just want to try to get a little bit more into the larger schools to help teach people how to work with local flowers. And that is it. Sorry. So thank you. Thank you for listening. And
thanks, Jamie. If you want to unshare, then we can get back and thank you. Fantastic. That's excellent. I'm wondering, I know there's people from other hubs. Before we go into questions, I wonder if people from other hubs who are here want to share maybe some differences from Toronto, or different advantages and challenges and opportunities that you face? Should we do that?
I would love to hear. I would love to hear it too. I'm always so interested in how other people run theirs.
Marley, you're here from Ottawa.
I am. Yeah, I think there's a couple of us from the Ottawa hub on the line, so maybe some others can jump in too. But just to introduce myself a little bit for some context. So, hi everyone. Yeah, Marley. I own Baroque Blooms out of the Ottawa hub here. I am a farmer florist and still relatively new to like both sides of the business. I joined the Ottawa hub last year as a guest grower, and this year is my first season going into it as like a full-fledged member, which I'm very excited about. And so I think I would qualify myself as like a side hustle, like farmer, based on your presentation earlier, Theresa. I'm definitely not on an acre of land. It's very small. So I think I have a bit of a different setup than a lot of maybe other growers on the call. But I think like I share a lot of like the benefits. One of the reasons why I really was excited to join the hub was just the knowledge sharing and the improved skills. I think like as someone who's still so new to growing in general, like it's a completely different ball game from, just growing like a little like garden box, like it's a very different setup. So I think one of the most valuable things for me as like a newer member is just that knowledge sharing, like improving my skills, like seeing how others do it who already have this like wealth of experience has been really eye-opening, but also just so appreciative. So I think from like my perspective, that was definitely one of the big benefits. Of course, like that streamlined infrastructure for like sales, like that cooperative element has been such a like an asset as someone who's just starting out, doesn't necessarily have that same network built up yet. That was definitely like a big benefit for someone in my position. And then just to reinforce the point from Jamie, like the sense of community is like we're such like a wonderful bunch of people and they're just so lovely. So it's really nice to be part of that and like ask those questions and have that camaraderie and like share on the struggles of the day to day and the tasks that are involved. And then also like just like the opportunity to diversify and specialize and try and learn and like have that bit of like that safety net, but also that avenue of people who are interested in more of those unique and funky varieties. So that's like a lovely benefit. I think from like a challenge perspective, like on my side, like just like learning and doing at the same time, I think is quite challenging. Still being super new. And then of course, just like navigating like the pricing conversations as a group and like how you sort of work between the different styles, as you mentioned, of like a side hustle farmer versus like a livelihood farmer. Like those are two very different realities and very different structures. So just sort of like trying to find that balance. But I think one of the benefits is like everyone's like got the same goal, right? Bringing more local flowers to more people. And I think that's been like a really lovely like guiding like principle to really help out.
That's amazing feedback. Thanks so much. Sylvia, did you have something to add? Were you chiming in?
Oh, just a little bit, Teresa. I was listening to Marley. I don't have that much more to say. I mean, we started out, and I don't know what your group is like, but we started out as actually a group who were doing a market together in Ottawa. And so we would all bring our flowers and set up a stall. And some people are still involved in that, but it kind of morphed into the collective. So we knew each other before we formed the collective. And I think just kind of to reiterate what Marley said, it's the friendship and the camaraderie that kind of drew us together. And so we liked each other before we started working on the business end of things. So that was nice. And the benefits, yeah, my first and foremost benefit, just as maybe a bit of a larger grower, was I didn't need to pay somebody to drive around the city all day, dropping off at all the different florists. And the same thing that Jamie said, some of our florists weren't meeting our minimum for drop off, and then we'd have to charge them. And you'd say, oh, I don't really want to charge you, but I kind of have to because I'm paying my driver. Da, da, da. So this way, we didn't have it the first year in our collective delivery, but last year we did, and it really made a difference too. So that there are also delivery drivers that go from where the hub is dropped off to the florists. So that's been a really nice addition, I think. Yeah.
Wow, that's really good feedback. I wanted to just emphasize something you mentioned, Marley, because it was my experience too. When I started, I used to sell at the local flower collective. I don't now, but when I did, I was really new to wholesale selling, and I didn't I don't come from any kind of a design background at all. Like I grew vegetables and flowers was just the new vegetable for me. So I'm even colorblind. Like I was just like, what is this about? And it blew me away to go to the collective, and I deliberately did my drop off the first year after a lot of other farmers already had dropped off their stuff. And just to wander through that studio and see that product was just unbelievable and so inspirational. And you could pick something up, and lots of things I said, like, what is this? Like, I didn't know. Then I'm often researching it and can I grow that? And also just to know how things are cut. Like, I remember seeing another farmer's agrostima and thinking, oh, that's how you're supposed to cut that. Oh my gosh, that's like beautiful compared to what I'm doing. So even like things about quality, but all those little nitty gritty things, there's just nothing like, being there. And I think lots of the collectives do this first year grower kind of program to give people that opportunity to just come see the flowers. There's no better way to kind of judge your own production than to see what your peers are doing. It's really helpful. Do we have people on the line who are with other of the hubs who want to share anything from experience, or should I go to questions? Anybody? I know there's some others from hubs here, but maybe it'll come up. So a couple questions are here. One question is about the, Jen calls them lurkers. So Jamie, she's referring to buyers who bought subscriptions to memberships, but have not bought flowers. Like, what's with that? What do you do? Do you tell them they have to meet a minimum, or you take them the following year, or what do you do?
Yeah, so I know how do you how do you do that? I mean, we have an application that we try to use a little bit to weed out people, and based on their answers, we can kind of gauge whether or not they're going to be a participating member. We can't do anything about it, and like sometimes we're like, okay, I'll take your membership fee, but at the same time, you're taking space from somebody who can contribute and become a part of the community. So it's a little bit of a bummer there. We are asking and are implementing this year a $500 minimum order for the whole season, which is nothing for the whole season. We don't really have a way to like to ensure it other than we might do a mid-season check-in and run a report and just make sure people are like check in with people and ask, is there something specific you're looking for? Again, all of this is sort of extra work that we don't really plan on, and a lot of organization and back and forth. But I think, again, this is a little bit part of the education and educating new people on what it's like to be part of the collective and how we work. So yeah, we don't really have a way to enforce it. We try our best to gauge people from their application responses, whether or not they'll be participating. But yeah, we've put in a $500 minimum order for the whole season for 2025, which is nothing in the grand scheme of what our members buy. So yeah, hopefully that'll help this year.
There's another question.
But no, I have.
Sorry,
go ahead.
Another question that is basically about your tier 1 and tier 2. I don't think you talked about that. If you could explain how you use 2 tiers, because I think the question is there a problem with people like who are in tier 2 maybe not liking that tier 1 get earlier access or those things?
Yeah, so the reason for tier 1 and tier 2 was because I think the original reason, this makes me think now back. The original reason was because there were some people who joined for the first year, for instance, who didn't really know what they were getting into. So they're like, it's cheaper and safer for me to join as a tier two. Well, safer, it's cheaper and it's less of a commitment for me to join as a tier two. And the majority of people who do join as tier twos in the first year join as tier ones in the next year. I think it's just because their way of kind of getting their foot in the water and seeing what the collective's all about, realizing they don't have to pay as much. And the second reason was, as you know, Theresa, and as anybody who's shopped on the collective website, when it opens, things go really quickly. And the more people that are on there, for instance, if all those 80 people logged on at once, the stuff they would want would be gone very quickly. So I think that was another one of the major reasons, is to just make the opening of the shop hours a little less chaotic.
Could you explain the tier system, Jamie, just a tiny bit? Just explain what the difference between the two tiers is?
For sure. So we have tier one and tier two. Tier one is slightly more expensive than tier two. And tier one, the shop opens an hour earlier and your pickups start an hour earlier. So everyone across the board has access to all the same product, all the same farms. Just tier one has first access of the shop and first access of pickup. But we do also offer pre-orders, and there's no tier one, tier two on that. Like a tier two member can directly contact one of our growers and say, I want 20 bunches of X for next week. And that grower doesn't have to say, oh, you're tier two, I have to give it to a tier one first. Like, that's too complicated and a little bit crazy. So so that's the main differences. Tier ones also get a lower admin fee or lower markup on floral products than tier two. Tier one also gets discounts on rentals, and tier two do not. And I think that's all. I think that's all of them.
And really, most people are tier one. Isn't that fair to say?
Yeah.
Like the
Yes.
vast majority end up joining as tier one.
Like exactly.
Saying, like people seem to use tier as the trial. Tier two as like the trial. I'm not sure I want to do this, and then once they've decided, they go for tier one.
Yes, exactly. Or someone can just know, for instance, and we've had a few people who've reached out to me and then just said, I'm actually taking a slower year. I'm having a baby, so I'm going to join as tier one this year, tier two this year, just because I'll be working less and XYZ. So they also have that option to change their membership fees based on how they think their season's going to go.
Right.
Oh my God, I'm so sorry. I just need to close this.
Just for people who aren't that familiar with OFN,
Oh my God, leaf blowers. Sorry. I know, it's great. If anybody's wondering, I am currently in Hawaii right now, so there's landscapers outside blowing leaves and doing all the crazy stuff.
I was just going to explain your comment about the craziness of the OFN shop opening, and this is something that we see really across all the hubs. It sort of didn't matter, and that is that the first 15 minutes that the store opens is insane, and it's interesting because people who don't know OFN, it's an open source platform, and we have an international development team, and we have. I can't explain the technical stuff of this, but there are these alerts and metrics that they use to keep our servers up and running all the time. And there are, I don't know, buzzers go off when things are warnings or something like this. But they're always quite surprised by our flower hubs because this isn't an experience with food hubs. This kind of get in there and buy fast. And it's a hard one to manage, and we're struggling to find different features that will manage this. But so far we haven't, lucked on to the feature that is exactly what everybody wants. So we're still playing around with those ideas, but the tier one was an idea that would help move some buyers out of the mainstream, if you will, but then it quickly was that the tier 2 buyers became tier 1 buyers, and so it's like I was thinking, oh my god, we need like a tier 1 platinum, or because everybody still is going in there at once. So I don't know that it really did that much. Pre-orders made a difference, though. Now that designers know in that collective that they can do pre-orders if there's something they really want to get, that kind of takes them out of that early shop craziness. So that's kind of been a good thing, although pre-orders are their own hassle to manage. So it's not the perfect solution, but it did matter. And the other thing that makes a difference, and some of your other hubs have this too, we can set up a window shopping store, a display only, we call it, and it can be open before your main store opens. So it means designers can go to the main store, they see all the products that are going to be in the store when it opens in 2 hours time. And so they can kind of stage what they want to buy, right? They can do some pre-thinking and then just quickly go in and buy really fast what they want to get and get out of the store. So it sort of plays into this chaos strategy, which isn't the nicest strategy. But I think it all happens because on premium products that are in short supply, we're still in short supply. Like, we still don't have the supply that designers want of certain things. And it's just finding that right match, right? And of course, the things keep changing because, of course, there are trends, and it's a very trend following field. So we don't have perfect solutions to this. So yes, there is this 15-minute chaos when the store is open. Other questions people have? Oh, it says for me to look down. Okay. So someone says about pre-orders. How exactly does the Google Sheet work for pre-orders? Do growers post? Okay, so in a nutshell, we have a Google Sheet. I won't go into this, but it's an integrated sheet. It means that, you see, what we have to know is we have to know who ordered what and how much of it, and who sold what and how much of it. And so it's like this grid, right? Because the right people have to be paid out for the right products, and the right products have to be invoiced to the right buyers. So what happens is every grower in the local flower collective has their own Google Sheet in which there is a section with drop downs where they list the product that was pre-ordered, and they drop down the name of the buyer and they put in the quantity. And they can take that pre-order. There's a sheet for every month of the year, a tab, for every month of the year. No, of the season. So they can, if someone called me today and said, September 6th, I want 8 bunches of Roseanne terracotta, I can enter that pre-order. And so I put it on the sheet and I forget about it. And then as I start to get close as a grower, I review my sheet to say, oh, I got this coming up. I either have to get back to that grower to say, did I ever goof? Because I don't have it, as it turns out. And I try to do that like a couple weeks out. Or I can say I'm on track, and I can send them a message that say, I'm just confirming that you still want this. You ordered it a long time ago. And yes, I have it, and whatever. And you can modify price at that point too, because price isn't really confirmed until the final order week is there. When that week, now that pre-order week becomes the current week, that buyer goes on to the shop and buys other stuff, but their pre-order isn't on an order in OFN anywhere. It's outside of OFN in this Google Sheet. And what they do in the local flower collective is they move that into a QuickBooks invoice so that people are still invoiced. It could be entered onto an OFN order, and there was a year in there, I think, when we were doing that, or maybe more than 1 year, that we were doing that in the local flower collective. It just takes a little bit more time, and just moving it into QuickBooks is quicker. But we hope to have a better system for this at some point in the future, because I think this is an industry of pre-orders. Like Jamie said, it's at least 30%. I think it might have been a little higher even. So it works. It's a little clunky, but it works. Yeah, so that's how that works. And it's totally up to the grower if they want to take pre-orders, because some growers don't want to, right? Some growers feel it's just too hard for me to forecast what I'll have and when I'll have it. Others are more comfortable doing that. Some people will only take pre-orders for certain things. And like I never took pre-orders for like zinnias or cosmos because the shop was filled with them. Like I don't have to do that. But for certain colors of lisianthus or dahlias or whatever, I would take pre-orders for. So it's totally up to growers how they want to do that. Next question is, when the growers update the website, are they just guessing? Well, hopefully they're not wild guessing, because that's a problem. But they are updating usually several days before. So I'm not sure the timing in Ottawa, but in Toronto, they would be updating on Thursday during the day. They got to their fields, see what they have, update, and they're forecasting what will be available when they pick, which is probably Monday, Tuesday. So it's not that many days ahead that they're forecasting. How do you do the forecasting in Ottawa?
Yeah, I think it might depend, I think, by the farm, but I think so maybe Sylvia, you have some insight on that as well. But I think for me, like our shop opens on Thursday at like I think 5 or something like that, Thursday evening. And so folks will have up until like that point to add any like bunches and update their numbers and make sure that like it reflects. And then it closes on the Monday, I believe. Guys, correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, you got the times right, Marley. We're still
Yay.
debating. We were always debating whether to move up our pickup date to Wednesday. But I think we're keeping it at Thursday. We're meeting next week again, but I think we're keeping it on Thursdays. But we do have less product than it looks like, way less product than Jamie, and also quite a large space. So we're pretty lucky that way. We also get it free from the city of Ottawa, which is also a lovely thing. Yeah. So
Oh, really lucky thing. Yeah.
yeah, I have a question for you, Jamie, and I don't know. But I wrote it on the chat, so maybe Theresa will do it.
Oh no, go ahead now. I'll go through it too.
Oh, okay. It's just you're talking about, I'm really interested in this consignment market that you have in conjunction with your collective pickup. And we tried it a tiny bit last year. Some people brought in the wrong thing, and then we would run out to the trucks if they were picking stuff up. I went out one time and somebody said, "Oh, yeah, sure, I'll buy those dahlias," kind of thing. But if there's stuff left over from that, does somebody just bring it away, take it away somewhere?
Yeah, so there's two things. Yeah, so the market consignment thing that happens on Wednesdays is, yeah, if a grower has something they want to try to get rid of or something that they think they know they'll sell, they'll bring it to the collective, and typically it does really well. I think our market sales are a little shy of $20,000 a year, so it's not huge, but it's not nothing. So at the end of the day, which is typically we leave it for the last 4 buyers to pick up, is when we put everything on 50% off, so we don't get left with anything, because that's not what we want. So the first thing we do is everything goes on 50% off when we have about 4 buyers left to pick up, because we figure they'll take something. Or they'll take most of it if it's left. We used to have a system where we donated the leftovers to an old folks home, like a care facility. But that was because someone who worked there lived close to the studio, so they could pick that up on their way into work. Other things would leave the onus on us to either deliver them somewhere or something like that. And it just never kind of worked out. So in a perfect world, everything left on market is gone. Sometimes we literally have 3 bunches left and it's nothing, and we give it to the staff. The staff also buy the market stuff when they leave, or we give it to staff or someone who comes in. Or unfortunately, we do have to toss them if things don't sell. But we don't have a perfect system for what's left over on market. But the best we do right now is 50% off at the end of the day. And if anybody knows anyone in Toronto in the Stockyards area who wants to come and pick up leftover market stuff, please get them in touch with me, because I absolutely hate seeing that stuff left.
Jen is just following up on the Google Sheet work and a point that I didn't mention. So yes, this pre-order system that they use in Toronto is a direct agreement between a buyer and a seller, between a farmer and a buyer. And the Toronto Collective encourages that direct connection between. And what my experience, what happens is buyers get get accustomed to growers they like, and we'll reach out and say, here's my events for the season. I want to pre-order this and this and this and this. It also happens though that buyers might not know a grower who has it, or maybe an event came up quickly even on them. And so they will then post in Slack that says, I'm looking for this on this date, or more generally, I'm looking for things in this palette for this date, or I'm looking for a focal in this palette for this date. So it really happens in all kinds of ways. And the collective is really one of the collectives that encourages the direct connection. Not all the collectives run that way. Some collectives prefer to run more on I call it like an agent model almost, where the growers are just growing and there's an agent who's doing the brokering in a way with the buyers. So it can work in either way. A question about Jamie's consign. Oh, that was the one we just did. Oh, we're caught up. Anybody else got a question or something that I missed because I could have?
I think there was someone named Megan who had her hand up for a minute.
Oh,
I
I'm
don't
sorry.
know.
I did not see hands. Oh my gosh, I'm too baffled by too many things at
It's a lot
once.
to-
Someone who had their hand up. Megan, are you still here? And do you have a question?
No. Anyway, if you do, you can put it in the
Yeah,
in the
or
chat.
you can unmute and chime in. Absolutely. I'm sorry if I missed that. I don't even know where I'm looking for hands. Sorry. Got too many screens
It
here.
also might have just been an accident. I don't know.
Other questions or thoughts? You know, there's so much nuance behind the scenes for this. It always amazes me. Like on one hand, you think, oh, it's a really simple thing. You just bring flowers to one place. But there's a lot of layers to this, especially as the collective grows and gets bigger. The staging of the flower drop-off, you really don't want everybody coming at once. You know, like little things like that are all the learning pains that I think happen over time, right? As collectives exist over time, they try out different solutions, and different solutions are going to work in different places, and all of that. Oh, here's another message. Educating growers. Oh, Jamie, you mentioned educating growers looking to start collectives. Is there any chance there would be a workshop or visits this year?
Yes, yeah, I want to try really, really hard to get everything set up for starting something like that this year. I definitely do. Even doing something like this and realizing I forgot to talk about tiers and I forgot to talk about there's just so much stuff that I forget. So it's a lot of information to pack together, and definitely yes, I'd want to do a workshop and get things started this year, because it'll also help me formulate all my stuff, all the information that we do.
Yeah.
So the answer is yes, and we'll definitely, if you follow us on Instagram or on our newsletter, we'll spread the word when it's ready or when something is starting.
You really, I mean, the biggest thing from my experience is having a group of growers to start with and a group of buyers to start with. Like if you've got 5 of each, even to start, like that's great. So I think that's the first step. And on the OFN side, I do webinars all the time for people who want to start hubs or start co-selling arrangements or whatever. So you can just contact me. I'm just going to put in the chat here my email where you can reach me, and then that will be good. Are there other questions? I can't type in.
I think we're all caught up.
Yeah, I think so too. I think so too. Well, I think we can call it an evening then, let people get on with their Sunday night. So thank you so much for generously sharing your experience, both Ottawa and the collective and Jamie. It's been such a pleasure to work. I can't tell you how wonderful it is to work with the flower collectives. I just love working with them, and that because we had this funding this year, that I actually got a little bit of money for working with them was like even bonus. And I apologize to anybody if I've been like, I don't know. Sometimes I think I get a little stressed out about it because everybody wants everything done all at the same moment. So if I've given you any negative vibes about flower collectives, it just comes out of stress. I'm really very, very happy to be doing this. So.
Yeah, I just wanted, there's one thing Victoria asked about, and I was going to type it, but I feel like it was the buyer pickup always on Wednesdays? This is for the collective, I think. So for us, yes, it was always on Wednesdays because we emailed our members and we just said, based on your schedule and the grower's schedule, what works best for pickup days? And the consensus was Wednesdays. So it's been Wednesdays, I think, since the beginning. We offer Tuesday pickups because we do stagger drop off. So some growers drop off on Tuesday. So if a buyer specifically needs something on a Tuesday for a Wednesday or Thursday event, they can pick up on Tuesday. I think that was everyone. Yes. Sorry.
Perfect.
And yes, thank you, Theresa, for organizing all this.
No problem.
You do.
Okay, well, thanks so much for everyone for your participation, and a reminder that this will be posted to the Open Food Network Canada's YouTube channel. And if you're lost and can't find it, if you just go to the Open Flower Network page, and I think most of you know where that is by now, and you know what, I might as well just put it right here in the chat if you're looking for that page. And everything we do under this project is posted there, and upcoming events are on the calendar and so forth. And we have one more year in the project. So for one more year, we'll have different kinds of workshops now. The focus is shifting a little bit, not so much on the hubs anymore. This was part of the first stint on the project, which was about wholesale selling. So now it'll be a little bit more different topics and more Q&As to all flower farmers. So a little more open in the topics that are coming. So thanks so much, everybody. I hope you have a very pleasant Sunday, and happy spring, everybody.
Thank you. You too.
Bye now.
Thank you. Whoops.